じゃあ、それ見ましょう。それ見ましょ
これだけど短い、す
う。
ごい短い。
いいです。とりあ
Of
え
the
ず。
US state of Montana, just a few kilometers south of the Canadian border, lies the quiet town of Scobie. According to a recent survey, Scobie is among the top 3 hardest to reach small towns in America. But the region's wireless provider, along with many others across rural America, has found itself at odds with US authorities. Niemont Telephone Cooperative relies on Huawei
これ中国
equipment.
のテレビだ。
The Trump administration and the Federal Communications Commission argues that is a security risk and want it removed.
Nobody in their right
このおっさん
mind
困ったっつ
would
って。
shut down a network and shut down public safety. Sometimes I equate it to like flying in a jet with 2 engines, and you want to replace one of the engines while you're at 30,000 feet. Probably not a real good idea.
The main push behind the move is the allegation that the equipment could be used as a backdoor for spying.
If any foreign government wanted to spy on us through this type of technology, it wouldn't matter if this equipment is from China or the US or from wherever.
Mike Kilgore says, in his experience, that threat is overhyped.
In the United States, we have a constitution, we have due process, we're innocent till we're proven guilty and all of that, right? So let's pride in the guilt, but that sort of thing, that sort of guilt is not real apparent to the operators that are using this equipment today.
Although this area is home to some stunning scenery, this is not a lucrative region for cell phone networks to operate, with just 20,000 people living in an area of some 50,000 square kilometers.
Kevin Rasmussen has farmed here for 28 years. A nearby communications tower allows him to keep up to date with the latest planting data, as well as vital weather reports. But more importantly, if the network is shut down, even temporarily, he is concerned about the safety risks.
I've had friends that have had problems before, and thank God they had their phone with them, so they could make that phone call. Maybe they're hurt bad. The other thing is, I guess we've talked about in this community is, you know, we've had some really bad fires in the past, even a couple this year. Without that cell service too, it wouldn't have happened. I mean, wouldn't have gotten taken care of so quickly.
Carrie Bennett is the General Counsel for the Rural Wireless Association. She says to rip and replace the network would be costly and would take years.
The money is absolutely not available. I make no qualms about this. Our members are relying on universal service support as it is, and we've estimated in our filings with the Federal Communications that it could be anywhere from 3 to 7 years to replace the networks.
Back in Scobie, Mike Kilgore hopes it doesn't come to that, given some of his customers rely on older cellular technology that is not easy to replace. Huge swathes of rural America will be watching developments closely. Dan Williams, CGTN, Scobie, Montana.
ね、
その通り使わなかった結
7
局
年もかかる。
そうですね。それはさっきのヌーさんが言ってた、まあ、すでに日本であるインフラも同じである状況であると。
あとどれ
であれば、その次が、
これがいいんじゃないの
Can this save? 待ってね、new。
これは面白いよ。
待ってください。それは、
RT テレビ、ロシアテレビ。
タイトルもうちょいしたなんだっけ ?What is Huawei?
これは、
really guilty of. そうですね。
これは面白いよ。
Huawei's bid to become the largest seller of cell phones in the entire world.
ほら、ちょっと見て
They're almost already
Can't beat them.
Ban them.
Ban them. これはそのメッセージ。
there, right? Already the world's top seller. But if they have
ださすがロシアなの。ロシアですよ。だからもうニュートラルな発言してる。
to sell phones from now on that doesn't offer, let's see, Gmail?
この男って何人かなロシア人じゃないよね。
No Gmail. YouTube? No, sorry, you're not going to get YouTube anymore. Google Maps? Sorry, that's out too. Just to name a few. I could go on.
うん、だと思うよ。
Good luck trying to sell those phones, right?
どっちかって言ったら東海岸。西じゃ
Tonight,
ないですね。
Huawei is already firing back. Within the past few hours, the company's communications department put out this tweet, and here's how it reads.
ちなみにこれいつでしたっけ これ5月20日ですね。1週間前。
あ、最近だね、これ。
はい。1週間前です。
Steam ahead. A U.S. ban on sales of electronic components to Huawei will not stop this tech giant, who's working for them, Trump, from rolling out 5G mobile. Sorry, couldn't help myself. From rolling out 5G mobile networks in Europe. Wow. So what Huawei and i.e. China seem to be saying is, okay, you go after our phones, but we're still going to beat you when it comes to the 5G network. That seems to be what they're saying in that tweet, right? So do Mr. Trump's bans and sanctions go too far, or is it just right? Is it brilliant, in fact, to try and get China to the table on our terms? We're going to be drilling down on that in just a moment. But first, we're going to begin with news with Rick Sanchez, special correspondent Michelle Greenstein, who's been drilling down on this thing all day long, and she's joining us now. Let's start with what I was proffering a moment ago, that this is very much damaging to Huawei from a sales standpoint, correct?
Absolutely. It could be devastating to Huawei's business outside of China. Now, Google confirmed Sunday evening that the current Huawei devices won't be affected, meaning if you already have a Huawei phone, you can still use and download any Google apps and get their updates. And Huawei is still free to use the free version, the open source version, although Google has kind of been erasing all the attractive features from that. But in terms of long-term profitability, this can be very devastating for Huawei. They were on the path to becoming perhaps the world's #1 phone maker by the end of the year. Without Google's support and Android support, it looks like that might not happen.
I have a lot of friends who laugh at me because I use an iPhone.
Right.
And then they take out their Android, their Huawei Android, and they go, check this out. And I must admit that their camera, their video is unbelievably
it's a superior piece of hardware, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what we're dealing with here. But it's kind of like you said, you can have the most perfect piece of hardware in the world, but if there's no operating system, and people are used to using Google's Play Store, I mean, at this point it's a duopoly between Apple and Google, so much so that the European Commission's even conducting an antitrust investigation into Google. That's how big of the market they have. But without the apps, I mean, what's the point?
It's a beautiful
living in a house without
home.
Furniture.
Yeah, exactly. But it, you know,
the
consumer's kind of getting the shaft.
ここで言ってることわかります？ここで言ってることわかります？
Here though, because if there's people who love this product,
要するにさ、ファーウェイってハードウェアメーカーだから、はい、だからアンドロイドのソフトを使えなくなっちゃうとさ、ヨーロッパ売れない。
まあ要するにそうですね。OS オペレーティングシステムを基準にハードウェアって動くので。肝心なオペレーティングシステムが提供されなかったら使えないんじゃないか。まあ、結局ファーウェイは自分の OS を作ってるので。
さ、はい、ここで言ってるのはさ、Android のオペレーティングシステムの上で働く Google のソフト。
そうですよ。
Android のオペレーティングシステムはファーウェイはちゃんと彼らはさ、オープンソースから使ってるから。
いや、なので、オープンソースから使っているので、現状のバージョン、今の Android
違う。OS は違う。
いや、OS を、つまり、今までの、要するに Android って誰が作ってる ?Google。
いや、違う。ファーウェイ使ってるの、オープンソースの Android 使ってる。
そうなんです。で、
Google じゃない。
オープンソースの Android の、
困るのは違うんだよ。困るのは、ここではストレートに言ってないから Gmail 使えなくなっちゃう。その代わりオールドバージョン使えるけど、新しいの使えなくなっちゃう。
その通りです。
アップデート、これセブルアップデートですよ。
ソフトウェア。
Google は禁止してる。ban Huawei from several updates to Android operating system。すみません、Android operating system はオープンソースだから、Google 関係ない。Google が関係あるのは、要するにその、
Google アプリ。
アップデート。Google アプリのアップデートを禁止してる。Google アプリは使っていいよって彼は言ってるんだけど。
今までのフリーバージョンは。
アップデートを禁止してる。だからヨーロッパに売れない。
We're now saying, really, you're not going to be able to have that product because we're going to make sure it's inferior.
Right.
The consumer's kind of getting hit here, right?
Right. I mean, it'd be great if companies were cooperating with each other because the fact is, Google was profiting from Huawei's superior technology. Huawei has spent $13 billion in research and development in 1 year. In the same year, the main competitor in terms of wireless infrastructure from the US is Qualcomm. They spent $5.5 billion that same year. That's less than half. So they're seeing that kind of return. Huawei is just doing well. That's the fact of it. They have more 5G patents than any other company on earth, and China as a whole is doing well. China has 36% of 5G standard essential patents. US firms as a whole have only 14%. Development in 1 year. In the same year, the main competitor in terms of wireless infrastructure from the US is Qualcomm. They spent $5.5 billion.
Qualcomm が5.5
that same year. That's less than half. So they're seeing that kind of return. Huawei is just doing well. That's the fact of it. They have more 5G patents than any other company on earth.
そう、それが問題。なので、海野さんは、ファーウェイが数が多いからと。
そうじゃなくて、彼女言ってるのは、クアルコムって言ったでしょ。
はい。
クアルコムってグーグルと一緒なの。グーグル、クアルコム、インテル。
はい。
でそれが使えなくなっちゃう。
使えなく。
アップデート。
いや、そうなんですけど、今彼女が言っている
規模言ってるの、規模。ところが彼女言ってるのは、ファーウェイはハードウェアだけど、彼らの投資規模でかいよって言ってるの。
投資
規模、今彼女投資規模言ってる。
違います、
ね。だけど彼女が言いたいのは、グーグルとインテルとか、クアルコムはソフトだから。クアルコムはチップだけど。
クアルコムもチップです。で、インテルもチップです。
インテルもチップです。それ使えなくなっちゃう。
で、
新しいバージ
ョン。使えなくなる。そうですね。そこはそうです。そこはそうです。もちろん。
It's kind of getting the shaft here, though, because if there's people who love this product, and we're now saying, really, you're not going to be able to have that product because we're going to make sure it's inferior.
Right.
The consumer's kind of getting hit here, right?
Right. I mean, it'd be great if companies were cooperating with each other, because the fact is, Google was profiting from Huawei's superior technology. Huawei has spent $13 billion in research and development in 1 year. In the same year, the main competitor in terms of wireless infrastructure from the US is Qualcomm. They spent $5.5 billion that same year. That's less than half. So they're seeing that kind of return. Huawei is just doing well. That's the fact of it. They have more 5G patents than any other company on earth, and China as a whole is doing well. China has 36% of 5G standard essential patents. US firms as a whole have only 14%. So
ここが僕が言いたいことだったんです。
何言いたい
の？5G、要するに 5G という通信技術の牛耳っているのがファーウェイなんです。
そうだ。
で、どうやって牛耳っているかって言ったら、確かに実際に設置されているものもファーウェイのものが多いんですけれども、世界中に多いんですけれども、あとはパテントなんですよ。
そうだ。
で、パテントは厄介なんです。
一番独占的に取ってる。
です。で、そこが、僕の個人的な意見ですけども、そこが 5G という技術を採用するのに、厄介な部分であるとトランプ言ってるのかなと。
いや、ここで言ってるの
それは僕の個人的な意見でって言ってるんです。ここで言ってるのは違います。ここで言ってるのは違います。
Huawei is just reaping the benefits. Right now, they have 29% of the global telecom market. They're poised to have at least half of the 5G wireless infrastructure. So that's what we're seeing here. They're a threat to U.S. corporations.
But if you looked at it from a business standpoint, Huawei has been a sound business, right?
Yeah, they did well, really well this first quarter.
So they've been good capitalists, to use the word that's often used in the United States.
Yeah.
And yet they're being punished for it.
In a way, yes.
Because they're stuck in the middle, really. It's not their fault. It's the whole China-U.S. thing.
Right. I mean, it's really no mystery. U.S. corporations, they want to protect the cell phone markets in Western countries. And also Huawei, it has superior 5G infrastructure, and they want that market as well. We know that Five Eyes Security Alliance, which is the Western ally security system, they coordinated the banning of Huawei in July of last year. Trudeau was there. This was a secret meeting in Nova Scotia, which is why the arrest of Mrs. Meng Wanshou kind of makes sense, because Canada is, of course, not in fact, a part of the
CFO of Huawei, who happens to be the daughter of the chairman.
Exactly. But soon afterwards, these spy chiefs met. We started to see this campaign really take off, right? Our country started speaking out about how Huawei is a security threat. So it's really interesting to look at the big picture, because the fact is the U.S. is losing its grip over technological superiority.
Nobody can get more information in 4 minutes than Michelle Greenstein. You're fabulous. Thank you.
I try.
Thank you so much. Stick around. By the way, because we've got, I think we got somebody. Yeah, there he is. Joining us now, Todd Shipley, who's the CEO of Veer Software and an expert on cybersecurity. Well, Michelle just gave us kind of like the business lowdown of what Huawei had done. By the way, anything you disagree with that you just heard in that conversation? Maybe we should start there.
No, I mean, it's a complicated problem, and I think that Americans are not going to understand what's going on there, especially since Trump started the ban last week regarding the national security issues related to this. So not only is the technology issue an economic issue, he's thrown in the sphere of that it's a national security problem. So this is a very big issue that I don't think most Americans understand.
Let me ask you a question this way. Are you concerned, pardon the pun here, but I'm going to try and be cute, that we're trumping this up so much that the retaliation may be more than we bargained for at some point?
Well, I think right, Rick, you're right. In some respects it is, but we have to look at whether it really is a national security issue. Now, Huawei has had issues in Europe, too, with those countries looking at their products and very concerned about it, particularly since they're rolling out the 5G technology there in Europe. And it's going to hit there first before it hits the United States. And they understand that there's some issues in the background that's going on. So we really have to think this through. Now, did Trump do it at the right time? I don't know. But it's certainly going to have an impact on all of us in the near future, as well as Huawei, because they're a big company. But they're not going to be as hurt as like ZTE was a few years ago by the same kind of tactic, because they're so huge and they're making so much money in the 5G part of it right now that this is going to be a bump in the road for them.
What's the worst case scenario coming out of something like this that keeps guys like you who manufacture and are in this industry here from the U.S. side up at night?
Well, I think it's that the Chinese government's involved with the company and what they're actually doing. They profess that they're not doing anything with the chips on the boards, but our concern is always something there, and are they using it as a product to spy on us? And is that why it's a national security issue with the United States government, that they're actually doing something that's invading all of our homes?
But is there?
We don't know.
But you said that's a concern. Okay, so I would be concerned about that too, and I think that's a great point. We should be concerned about anybody trying to spy on us as Americans and somehow using that to affect us, either individually as a nation. But I haven't read anything definitive that has proven to me, anyway, maybe you know something else, that they've actually been able to do that. Is there some solid proof on this?
Well, I mean, you look on what Huawei's done. I don't think so.
That China. Let me rephrase it. That China is actually right now using their technology, like Huawei phones, to spy on America or Americans.
No, outside of the Bloomberg story a few months ago, which has never been proven, there was a big row over that whole thing with the chips on boards. But the thing is, we as Americans have lost control of the manufacture of all that technology. So we have no idea what they're doing. That's the problem. And it takes the expense, the ability to review that stuff is so massive that we've lost total control of that part of it. So you have to expect that it's occurring.
We had part of an interview here with the
アメリカの観点からしてアメリカが正義とは、言いたいと思いますよ。アメリカの観点からしてね。としたら、競合でもあり、いがみ入ってる相手が自分の社内技術をたくさん蓄えてると思ったら脅威を感じるのは自然ですよね。
でさらに彼が言ってるのは、アメリカはそういうのを作る技術を持ってないから、
現状は、
だから分からない。
分からないと。そう、それを認めてるわけですよね。
And he seemed to be saying, look, I think America's mad because we're kind of kicking their butt on this. Does he have a point?
Oh, Oh, they are. I mean, we've lost total control of that part of the technology. We buy it, we use it, but we don't manufacture any of that anymore. All that manufacturing is being done in China. And so we've lost total control of technology that way because all of the companies in the United States have to go there and have to deal with the Chinese government. And these companies that are being controlled by the Chinese government, although they say they're not, we know that they are. And so we've lost control of it. And I think he's right. We are feeling bad about it because we don't have control in the United States anymore.
Final question, and you only have 10 seconds to answer it. Is this thing going to be settled, or is this going to continue, this thing with Huawei and Google?
Oh, it's going to continue for a while because this is not a short solution to this problem. You
have been a fabulous guest. Thanks so much for joining us on short notice. Great answers, great wisdom. Thank you very, very much. Eric Sanchez, you found us on YouTube.
今日はこれまで。
いやもう10分やりませんか？もう10分。
次何やる
の？まあでもこれが確かに一番見たかったですかもしれない。
これが今一番面白いんだよ。
はい。
あとはだからどっちかっていうと大したことないよ。俺全部見たけど。これ。
Inside Far Away の 5G の BBC は？
これ
？Inside Far Away。
もうだけど、ちょっといいですか？これ
Hey guys, Sock here from...
こんなん大したことない。これ見てよね。
インパクトじゃないです。
どれこれ
タイトルを、動画のタイトルが画面にして。
これ
インサイド、そう、これは6分。
これはだけど、まあ大したあれじゃなかったので、まあ見ても。
Many more base stations, and they need to be smarter. It is the Chinese tech company Huawei which makes the most advanced 5G gear, but this has been making Western governments nervous. So I've come to find out who are Huawei. It may look like Paris, but this is Huawei's brand new campus in Shenzhen, China. A huge site where employees take a train between office buildings, each of which is modelled on a different European city. Few journalists have visited this Disney World-like project, very much the brainchild of Ren Zhongfei, the company's founder. He's been compared to the likes of Steve Jobs, growing his company from a small workshop to a global tech giant, now employing 180,000 people. Huge spending on research means Huawei claim they're now around 18 months ahead of any other 5G manufacturer. And that includes not just getting faster and faster data speeds, but also dealing with the problems that come from higher performance.
So this is Huawei's 5G wireless base stations. So normally in 5G, the power is around 1,000 watts.
And how much bigger is that than a 4G base station?
I think in 4G base station, normally the average power is 300 watts.
300. And this is...
So it's 3 times larger.
So this uses 3 times as much power?
Yeah.
So it gets hotter?
Yeah, it's much hotter.
It's a common problem in technology. As things get faster and they consume more power, they get hotter, and new cooling techniques need to be developed.
This is liquid cooling cycling.
Is that liquid boiling in there?
Yeah, it's bottle.
So that is boiling and then coming through this tube?
Yeah, it's boiling.
Right, okay.
Here, they're learning how different designs and materials can change the speed and direction that heated air flows away from the components. And here's an experiment to try and keep everything at a stable temperature by either applying heat or cold on demand.
Yeah, that's gone cold. Yeah, that's hot.
Huawei is currently enjoying huge success, with revenues last year in excess of $100 billion. But this is also a company facing some serious issues. The biggest is that the US is coming for Huawei in a big way.
Look, we have met the enemy, and it is Huawei, and it is China. Make no doubt about that. You know, right now, Lou, Huawei, through access to unlimited capital from the Chinese government, the communist government, all of this technology, guess what? It's built in for cyber spying, for cyber espionage, because that's what the Chinese do.
The problem is, Mr. Ren was once a member of China's People's Liberation Army, and that's raised suspicions about his links to the Chinese state and whether it and Huawei may have each other's backs. America is adamant that Huawei is a pawn of the Chinese authorities. In 2017, China passed the National Intelligence Law, which says that, if asked, all Chinese companies and citizens must help the government to assist national intelligence efforts. China claims this is part of an effort to safeguard its security. But the fear is that if Huawei supplies any country's 5G network, the Chinese could exploit it. To help the government decide whether Huawei should be in the UK's 5G network, the British security services have a special unit devoted to looking at the potential risks posed by Huawei. It's overseen by Dr. Ian Levy. His job is to defend the UK against digital attacks. He rarely gives interviews.
Does Huawei pose more of a security risk than the other companies that supply the network infrastructure?
So I think what we're talking about is assume the Chinese state wants to attack the UK telecoms networks. Our job is to try and make them work just as hard, regardless about whether we use Huawei kit or not.
Many people think the Chinese state would...
So I think what we're talking about is assume the Chinese state wants to attack the UK telecoms networks. Our job is to try and make them work just as hard, regardless about whether we use Huawei kit or not.
Many people think the Chinese state would love to eavesdrop on other countries. So if we let Huawei into 5G, is that a real danger?
It's no more likely to have spying on communications in 5G than it is in 4G. And anything that's critical, whether it's government, business, even personal communications, should be encrypted. So, you know, all of the communications with your bank from your smartphone, they're all encrypted because you don't want to trust the Wi-Fi and the telecoms network.
So if someone's listening on the line, they'll just get garbled.
They get gobbledygook. Yep. And it's the same for critical stuff in business, in government, in control systems.
So, according to GCHQ, the threat of spying that we've heard so much about recently is overblown. But there is another threat that they take very seriously. In a future where our entire infrastructure, our economy, and our lives are run by computers talking to each other over a 5G network, what would happen if someone shut that network down?
If you think about it, the future of warfare is not necessarily going to be using traditional armies in the way that we think of, like with the Second World War. The future of warfare is most likely going to be cyber. So without firing a shot, you could take a country out.
It's feared that the Chinese state could order Huawei to build secret backdoors in a 5G network. These would leave the country vulnerable to a nationwide cyber attack. And that could be catastrophic. To build a 5...
ということです。
ありがとうございました。ちなみに一個昔の話なんですけど、東ヨーロッパ、バルト三国あたりで、ね、その今の裕福じゃないところで、光通信をね、引いたんですよ。そしたらある時